Welcome to the Learning Laboratory. This is the second video on the playlist of anatomy. If you haven't watched the first one, the link will be in the description. So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about anatomical position. Anatomical position is the scientifically agreed upon reference position for anatomical location. So it's an agreed upon position to describe location of structures in the body. So we have the body standing erect. I will show you a diagram. Yes, this is the diagram. The body stands erect, the feet slightly apart, the palms face forward while the eyes faces anteriorly. Anteriorly means front or forward. We'll talk about it in directional terms. While the upper limb slightly away from the body, So this is the anatomical terms, is a agreed upon position. So we'll talk about the anatomical terms next. The anatomical terms, or directional terms, they describe the position of structures relative to other structures. So, for example, we have a lot of anatomical terms. I'll go through them one by one. We have the superior. Superior means above. Another name for superior is cranial. It means above. For example, the head is superior to the abdomen, meaning the head is above the abdomen. While the opposite of that is inferior or caudal, it means below. The navel is inferior to the chin, meaning the navel is below the chin. The next one is ventral. Ventral means in front of. So the breastbone is anterior, or the breastbone is ventral, or the breastbone is in front of the spine because it's in front of it, while dorsal is the opposite, behind. While medial is towards the midline, lateral is away from the midline. Intermediate is between a more medial and a more lateral structure. Intermediate is basically in the middle of. So when we see, for example, the ribs is intermediate to the arms. So the ribs is in the middle of the arms. So that's what intermediate means. The continuum proximal is closer to the origin of the body parts, while distal is further away from the origin of the body parts. Superficial is towards or at the body surface. So superficial is almost at the body surface. The most superficial part of our body is the skin because it's closer to the surface. It's the part closest to the surface, while deep or internal is away from the body surface, more internal. So for example, the skin is superficial to the skeletal muscle. The skin is towards the surface more than the skeletal muscle, while the lungs are deep to the skin. The lungs are internal to the skin because they are in. So those are the directional terms that we're going to be talking about. Then the next thing is terms of movement. We have flexion. Flexion means decreasing the joint angle. Extension means increasing the joint angle. Hyperflexion means is the same thing as flexion but beyond the normal range, while hyperextension is extension beyond the normal range. This diagram will explain it better. So this, when you flex, you're decreasing the joint angle. Okay, you can do it with your elbow. Once you bring your hand closer to yourself, that's flexion, decreasing the joint angle. But when you take it further away from yourself, you are increasing the joint angle. But once you bring it closer to yourself more than normal, that's hyperflexion. While when you take it away from yourself more than the normal, it's hyperextension. So flexion is bringing the head, for example, the joints in the head. So when you bring your head down, that's flexion. Extension is taking it up. But when you now look at the ceiling, that is hyperextension. So those are some terms of movement. We'll continue that with abduction. We can look at it with the arm. Abduction is moving away from the midline. So this is the midline of a person. Abduction is moving away, going up towards the head is abduction, while adduction is moving towards the midline or going towards the leg like this. So hyperabduction is when you reach this point, if you still move going above, far above the midline of the head, that is upper abduction, because you are going past the 180 points. This is the 180 points. Going above that is upper abduction, and going past the 0 point is upper adduction. Circumduction from circumference circle is movement in a conic circle or movement in a circular manner. So this is done by the joints in our shoulders. So when we move it in a circular manner, we call it circumduction. This is made up of a combination of flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction. The movement of the scapula is elevation and depression. The scapula is the bone in the back of our shoulder. We call it the shoulder blade. When we raise our shoulder up, that is elevation. We bring it down, depression. So that is the movement of the scapula, elevation and depression. Supination and pronation deals with our wrist in the palm. When we turn our palms frontward, we call it supination. When we turn the palms backward, we call it pronation. As you can see, so our palm facing frontward is supination and facing backward is pronation.